But let's start with last night's national championship game, where I credit Dan Byer with the picking Michigan to cover. I had the under, which hit, so we were both 1-1. He had the over in Michigan, I had the under and Washington. Here's Jim Harbaugh. This is funny, now being able to sit at the big person's table.
I get to sit at the big person's table now. That feels really good. Just to be the only coach in your own family that hasn't won a national title or Super Bowl, the championship. That feels great personally.
This was, I thought, a really interesting answer, right? It's never good. There's nothing you're going to do that satisfies the masses. But here was Jim Harbaugh when he was asked about his future. Take a listen.
Off the field issues, we're innocent, and we stood strong and tall because we knew we were innocent. And I just like to point that out. And these guys are innocent, and overcome that. It wasn't that hard because we knew we were innocent. So, that's really what I want to say. It went exactly how we wanted it to go. It went exactly how we wanted it to go.
Yeah, but I thought when he asked for just a chance to enjoy it for a night, look, I get it. I'm in the media. I want to know what he's going to do just as bad as anybody. But this hit home for me when he said this.
And all those accomplishments in the big person's table, would you want to add winning a Super Bowl to that?
I just want to enjoy this. And I hope you give me that, Can a guy have that? Does it always have to be, what's next? What's the future? Like I said the other day, I hope to have a future. Hope there's a tomorrow, a day after tomorrow, a next week, a next month, the next year.
So that's Jim Harbaugh. Look, let's just sum this thing up here. Okay? Sum it up really simply. That was a dominant football team. And I'll take a little bit of a victory lap because if you go back 3-4 years ago, even and the COVID year was a disaster. Don't get me wrong. It was bad look, Indiana and Northwestern were great during the COVID year, and then until this year, Northwestern hadn't won a Big Ten game since COVID. But if you predate that, if you go back to when he took over, people who work at Fox Sports Radio, like Clay Travis, who at the time was doing the morning show, he just eviscerated Jim Harbaugh, most overrated, hyped, overpaid coach in football history, maybe in sports history, yada, yada, yada. There were many. I'm only picking out Clay because, he's actually a friend. I don't agree with half of his takes, but it doesn't matter. The point is that Clay has, his wife's a Michigan alum. And he was at the game last night. And now everybody's pro Harbaugh. Man, we got to get him to stay. But I knew where they were coming from in terms of the lack of organization, the lack of being evolved as a program. Really that's kind of the case. They were arcane. Everything they did from strength to recruiting to style of play was dated. But then I'll give him additional credit. And I heard Booker McFarland, we'll play it for you later. Booker McFarland was on with Dan Patrick and how he changed defensive styles. He got rid of Don Brown, and they went to his brother's defensive style with the Ravens. They also changed offensively. And instead of trying to do what everyone else does, which is run spread, and use speed, athleticism, we're Michigan. What if we just recruited the biggest, baddest dudes there were? And the other thing they have working for them is in the Big Ten, 2 schools, maybe 3, have all the players. Right? Whereas in the SEC, yes, Alabama still has players. So does Ole Miss. So does LSU. Look, Arkansas has had dudes. Georgia has a ton of players, and it's spread out across the conference. And it doesn't mean that Michigan isn't recruiting in the same pool when they go to the to Florida and to Texas and to the South to recruit. But in their own pool, in guys in the Midwest, they're picking off the top of the heap. They had better players. They had solid old school schemes. And even when the score was close, it never felt like Washington would have to hit on a big play. And look, the holding call was atrocious that went against them. But that's the margin for error for Washington is that slight. When you have inferior roster, no matter how good your coaching is, you got to get everything to go right and get a little lucky to win. And Michael Penix didn't play his best game. They didn't have everything go right. And they got mauled by a bigger, badder, better team that this was their year. This was not supposed to be Alabama's year to win it. It wasn't really supposed to be Georgia's year to win it. Georgia wasn't themselves. The talent down there is spread out. And Michigan, that was a championship caliber roster. So I told you so, pat on the back thing. But that was before they started really changing how they played defensively. He had to get out and recruit a ton of talent. He had to change how they did strength, how they fed people, how they prepared. Everything had to change and evolve and become more of a championship level because, frankly, previous regimes were not like that. I knew that, and I knew they were close. The only thing left was Ohio State. So to take that next step, they changed stylistically. And let's also be honest, Ohio State loses a ton of guys to the pros. They were down at quarterback this year in comparison to where they'd been in the past. I mean, maybe really what we should say is we watch C.J. Stroud play and go, man, how good was that Michigan defense last year that they were able to beat C.J. Stroud and Ohio State? But the thing college football does give us, more so than any other sport, or more so especially than ones with the one-game tournament, which will change next year, is the best team. And Michigan was the best team. Were there teams with better quarterback play? Yes. Could there have been a team like an Oregon maybe give them a better game? Yeah. Alabama had them down in the fourth quarter, and Alabama's not great this year. Now, part of it was Michigan played terribly on special teams, ton of errors, looked really, really tight. Do I think Ole Miss could have given them a game? Yeah. Georgia, sure. But they were the best team. And because of the limited number of playoff games, oftentimes the best team does win. We cut out the possibility of attrition that causes an upset. Because of the space and time between the conference championship game and the semifinals, by and large, everybody's healthy. And when all things are equal and everybody's healthy, Michigan was the best team. And Harbaugh proved any naysayers wrong. Old school football still works. If you win the line of scrimmage, you win the football game. And that's what they did. Can we pick apart officiating? Yeah. Can we pick apart that it was in Houston? Okay. Can we say that, you have a quarterback who J.J. McCarthy calls the greatest Michigan quarterback? He's successful, but all right. Did Michael Penix Jr. not play his best game? Sure. Some of that was that he kept getting hit. Some of that was he just didn't play that well. Some of it was his biggest play of the night got called back for a phantom hold. Happens. Hey, I'm not excusing bad officiating. I'm saying we've all watched sports enough to know they screw things up. It happens. Does anyone not think Michigan was the better team? Of course not. And better football team. And we don't even have to match them up historically. Go, oh, how would this Michigan team fare against previous Michigan teams? Nobody cares. It doesn't matter. They beat 15 opponents this year. They never trailed at halftime. They're the best team in football, and hail to the victors. If we want to make it about sign stealing, if we want to make it about Harbaugh being weird, if we want to make it about recruiting during COVID, we can. In terms of football teams, no one with a brain is going to argue that they're the best football team, that they're not the best football team. Because they are. Yes, they are. Now what becomes interesting, and I do think that what Harbaugh said should have some validity. The problem with the can I just have the day is oftentimes if we were to give you the day and go, hey, man, we want to talk about this tomorrow. Can we talk about this tomorrow? Yes, tomorrow doesn't seem to come because usually if they leave, We've seen it. UConn played in a BCS game. Their coach literally flew to Maryland from the bowl game. Literally flew from the bowl game. So oftentimes they don't, in radio we call it pay off the tease. They don't pay off any sort of tease. They tell us, if they don't want to talk about it today, you won't ever hear from them. They'll take the job the next day. So he's right. He does deserve the chance to just enjoy it and not worry about it. I actually said that, Jay Stu, you can attest this. I said it yesterday, like, do we really have to have these reports before the game about Jim Harbaugh and the Raiders and the Chargers being interested? Like, everybody knows the Raiders and Chargers are interested. Like, we're not forwarding a story. And, oh, yeah, by the way, like, let them coach the game. Let them enjoy the game. Let the kids enjoy the game. We can't do that. I'm as guilty as anybody else. I'm not criticizing our society, but, like, do you order any? You go to Chick-fil-A, don't you order on the app? I do. Do you like waiting in line? I don't. You know, we can get anything we want delivered to our home, simply press the button. And we want to know where Jim Harbaugh is going now. And he's like, yo, can I just, like, take a breath? We just want to ask for championship. I didn't coach 7 of the games because of 2 different suspensions. What do you think? What do you think?